What's up, hillbillies? By the end of this video, you are going to know how to make 2 different kinds of beef jerky. Let's get right to it. I ain't smart enough to describe how that is. First thing I did is I went to the store and I was looking for flank steak. They did not have it because apparently it's too expensive now. But what you want to look for is you want to look for a cut of beef that doesn't have a lot of fat. So I just went and found some thinner slices of beef that don't have a lot of fat in them. And the reason why is because fat, after you go through the drying process, will actually be the first thing that will degrade and start to rot. And so the rest of the meat will store longer the less fat content you have in it. Now, I'm not going to be storing this for long-term preservation. It's probably going to be eaten pretty quickly, so I'm not so worried about it. But I just went and selected the least amount of fat that we saw. The first thing to do will be to take these out, go ahead and pat them dry a little bit, and we're going to pop them into the freezer for about 20 minutes. Why pop them into the freezer for about 20 minutes? Well, the main reason is it's going to make it easier to cut. You don't want to wait until it's rock hard, but right now, it's very flimsy. Here, I'll demonstrate that in a second. Right now, this beef is delicious, but it's very flimsy. So I'm going to go ahead and want to take, and you're going to want to cut in order to cut it, you're just going to freeze it first. All right, I'm just going to go ahead and take these 2 pieces of meat. We're going to pop them in the deep freeze here. Alrighty, so the upstairs one is full, so I'm just going to throw these in the freezer real quick. And we'll come back in 25 minutes. While we're waiting for that meat to freeze in the freezer, we're going to go ahead and start preparing what we're going to be using for this. Now, the recipe I've selected has actually won #1 in the world 2 years in a row, to the best of my knowledge. Now, there's really 2 main ways of preservation. First one is we're going to be, at the end of whenever, we're going to be slightly drying and applying the glaze. So we're going to teach you a clever hack on how to do that. We're going to use one method, which is a food dehydrator. A lot of homes have this, but there's another more clever method, which will make possibly slightly better jerky, and that's going to be using a box fan. Yes, I said it, a box fan. Why a box fan? Well, for several reasons. The first one is most people in the US, or if you ever went to college at some point, we're in a dorm, have access to a box fan. And we're going to be, this is a 20-inch by 20-inch box fan, and we're going to be using 20-inch by 20-inch household filters. And we'll see that here in a little bit. More on that later. But why are we even doing this in the first place? Well, you see, right now it's winter time, which is a great chance to show that you're gonna have cold air outside. If I were to open this window, right now there's a gust of air that's coming through this window this way, and it's very cold. It's cool air, and it's very dry air. Well, that air is going to blow through the meat and dehydrate it slowly. But the benefit you get is it is not cooking your meat. It is just removing the moisture, which gives you an entirely different texture later. And we're going to be comparing that directly to a food dehydrator. This is just a regular old food dehydrator. You can see I'm dehydrating some apples. We're going to put this, and we're going to start dehydrating this, but it has to, at a minimum, be at 95 degrees Fahrenheit. At that temperature, it's going to slightly cook the beef jerky. Regardless of what you want, it's going to give you a different texture instead of just cooling it off. Now, keep in mind to keep proper safety precautions. I'm comfortable in my sanitary conditions, dehydrating my own beef jerky and eating it. You do what's going to make you comfortable. We're going to do a head-to-head comparison of the old-fashioned dehydrated way versus the box fan method, which is one of my favorite methods. All right, and while we're doing that, we're still going to go ahead and start gathering the recipe. All right, guys, for this recipe, we're gonna need 1.5 pounds to 2 pounds of flank steak. In my case, I just went and found a very cheap cut of meat. You can do it with expensive meats, you can do it with cheap meats, but see if you can find the leanest meat possible. It'll help out. Second, you're gonna need 2/3 of a cup of Worcestershire sauce, 2 1/3 cup of soy sauce, a tablespoon of honey, 2 teaspoons of freshly ground black pepper, 2 teaspoons of onion powder, 1 teaspoon of liquid smoke, and 1 teaspoon of peppers. That's gonna be my recipe. We're gonna have a special bonus recipe here, but you're gonna stick around at the end to find out what that is. All right, guys, we still have a few minutes on the timer. So we are just gathering what we'll need for the marinade or the brine. And so for that, we've got 2/3 a cup of the soy sauce. We have the Worcestershire sauce. We have the onion powder. We've got black red pepper flakes. We have black red pepper ground. And we have a secret ingredient contender here. We just got salt, morass salt. More on that in a bit. Put this into our salt grinder here. This nice pink salt. Interesting. All right, now at this point, you might notice that we're missing the 1 teaspoon of liquid smoke. That's because we don't have any. So I'm just gonna forego it. We're gonna grab this butter knife, stir it up here. And it's about time to go get that meat. All right, so it's been about 25 minutes now, 30 minutes. And that was just enough time for this meat to become a little more firm, right? This is a 25-minute project. Went ahead and made the sauce while we were waiting here. And Alton Brown suggests that we cut with the grain. First thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna trim off some of this fat here. Remember, because fat's the first thing that'll go bad. All right, so you're gonna look where the grains are, and you're gonna be cutting with the grain. The reason you're gonna be cutting with the grains is because here in a moment, after you're done cooking it, and it's dried, when you bite into it, you're gonna be biting the cross grain part off, and it's gonna crumble in your mouth, which would be nice. All right, so we're gonna take this here, and we're gonna look for bacon-sized cuts. And again, freezing everything has helped make this a lot easier. If you didn't freeze it, it wouldn't cut as easy. It's all right if you have different sized ones. We'll deal with those later. All right, and with that, I'm gonna go ahead and set 2 or 3 pieces aside here. We're gonna take these pieces of meat. We'll very quickly cut this next piece up. All right, once it's all cut up, I'm gonna go ahead and take a few slices. I'm gonna throw them aside here. These are gonna be for our secret experiment. The rest of these here, I'm gonna toss into our baggie. And we're gonna pour our marinade in, which we made while we were waiting for this to freeze. So this whole thing's under 30 minutes, right? Marinade's in there. We'll squeeze the air out. All right, good enough. Don't want it leaking. And we're gonna take this guy, we're gonna throw it in the fridge. And now you're just gonna wait for 24 hours or up to 36 hours. Anything's fine. Now, every culture has some form of dried meat as jerky. But have you ever wondered where jerky comes from in its modern form? Well, to answer that, we're gonna have to take a little trip to the salt mines of Morass in Peru, where our story of jerky or charqui in Quechua begins. Future Hugh here, back in the States, and we had an awesome jerky video planned, but this happened right when we got to Peru. That's right, Civil War broke out, so a lot of our plans were interrupted, but we were able to do some cool stuff. If you don't care about the history of jerky, go ahead and jump to this timestamp you see on the screen, and that's gonna take you right back to us making jerky. We still got some really cool stuff, so stick around and find out if you like that. We are here in Morass.
This is the oldest continuously used salt extraction center in South America.
3,000 years, no?
Roughly 2,700 years.
And this was the ancient wealth.
It was part of the salt was an extremely precious commodity and was really valued by ancient civilizations in the Americas. And this was a jewel in the Inca Empire. But the history of salt extraction here is far, far older than the Inca Empire. And of course, it continues by the community here to this day.
Yeah.
Uninterrupted. Jordan, I'll hand over to you.
Yeah, so, well, the salt that most of the Incas struck here, they were using to dry the meat. When they dry the meat, they call it charqui. this dry meat, no? And the charqui, and we know that the Incas never like have money or cash or bills. So they practice the trade. So the charqui was a most valued thing that you can get from here, from this valley, to Ecuador, to Bolivia, no, to the other like surrender areas.
So everything in Inca times, there was no money, there was no cash, no coins. It was all agricultural goods. The most basic commodity was grains and corn
Exactly.
and quinoa, but the most valuable currency,
The charqui. The dry meat, yeah.
And this is the heart of how they were able to do it. No?
Exactly. They trade most of the salt they trade, as like David said, they take from here, from this place.
And this is an ancient
This is where
secret
beef
wealth.
jerky comes from. That this is the origin of beef jerky.
If you're having beef jerky right now, then it's because of this mine teaching all the ways. And then the Spanish murdered everybody, and then they spread it to the world because they thought that was clever.
Exactly.
Maybe they even claimed it was theirs. But one thing that's neat, behind us, Jordan was telling us about this actually in production.
They are actually in production. They take approximately like 3,000 kilos of salt every 3 months from this mine.
Which is great. And this is still in production. It's not, the Peruvian government doesn't have any claim or control over this. It's a private entity, still local community of the people that grew up around here, continue to have it in their family, and they're producing this. And we're going to be buying some of the salt and making charqui back home.
Wow, why not?
Right now, we're just walking through the middle of a salt mine. This would be the equivalent of some manufacturing company just allowing random strangers to come observe. Probably sell more salt this way. All right, so we're at the very top of the spring, and Jordan's going to walk us through kind of what's going on, what's behind us here.
Behind us is one of the secrets of the Sacred Valley, the empire of the salt mines, and we stay at this elevation at 10,300 feet over the sea. So from here, we can see more than 5,000 springs of salt. How is the process that these guys get the salt every day or every year? There are a spring up there, like a small lake, that provides this place, to this place like water. All the water is coming from under the ground, and they stuck here in the big first spring that is not working for salt.
Oh, so that comes all the way down, and there's salt water coming out here.
Salt water coming out here, right?
And so then, Incas, or it's pre-Inca times.
Yeah, it's pre-Inca times.
So before the Inca Empire even, somebody dug a pool for the very first channel. And while these aren't necessarily, there's more than 5,000 pools, not springs. It's one spring, but there's individual pools going all the way down the valley, and they flood irrigate them from here. And as the water, they cut it off, it will begin to evaporate. As it evaporates, it leaves more and more salt content.
Exactly. Yeah, thank you for the correction. We have pools, 5,000 pools in total here. So these pools, they belong to two communities. The Maras community is the biggest community here, and another community that is in the bottom is Puyusi. This another community. In total, there are 700 people. 700 people they are the owner of this area. So per people, it's like 7 or 8 pools. How those guys work in this kind of salt mines? In every pool, the size of the pool is like between 15 to 20 centimeters, like this size. So they divided all this pool in levels, in 3 levels. The first level is for human consumption, for put it in the salad, put it in the barbecue, like that. The second as well is good for the humans, but is not the best quality. The quality is getting lower. And the last part, just in the bottom of this pool, the local people use this salt for feeding the animals. They put over their food, over the vegetables, the grass, over the things that these guys feed the animals with. Okay, so the process that they get the salt is first in the pool. They were putting the stamp on the pool like this, make sure that all the salt going from the water that is in the upper part to the first level. Go, and with wood, pieces of wood, they move it. They collect it, make it small kind of hills, and then they put it in a basket. In a basket, the first level is taken they put it in a special spot, the second level as well, and the third level, they decide with that to feed in the animals that they have in this area. That is the llamas, alpacas, and the sheep. And also the salt that those guys use it, they also selling for local markets in Cusco that those guys make the traditional activity that is the dry the meat, no? That is the Jerky.
All right, guys, it's now I don't want to say it's the end of the protests, but the military showed up 2 days ago, mainly yesterday, and put rioters in their place. So we're back at San Pedro Market. We wanted to bring you the rest of the jerky video, but we were interrupted with what you currently see on the screen. So all of this started to unfold right after we got finished with our morass salt mine portion, and we've been basically locked in a hotel room since. But I wanted to point out we were going to try to go to San Pedro Market here. This market was designed by the same person who designed the Eiffel Tower. One of the engineers, which is crazy. I actually thought it was just slapped together, but it's actually been there for a very long time. So pretty impressive stuff going on here. But we're gonna try to go in and see if there's jerky. Or as locals here call it, charqui. Our tour guides, multiple, have barricaded themselves in their houses and are not leaving. So we don't have a guide. So we're just gonna meander around without being able to speak Spanish and see if we can show you stuff. We have the traditional recipe. Unfortunately, we were not able to make it to a village where they still do it the traditional way, but we're still gonna show you how to do it the traditional way.
Maybe for the next trip.
Remember to like and subscribe, guys. Put our safety on the line. All right, we're entering the San Pedro Market. It was absolutely packed earlier. Normally it's tourists and locals, but now it's mainly locals. Everyone's like scrambling to buy food because all the markets were closed for the last several days. So yeah, maybe 3 days to a week, but it looks like a lot of the vendors haven't been able to make it back because the roads are still closed. So here's some jerky right here.
And so we have
Alpaca, sheep,
jerky.
vaca, cow, okay. And seaweed? Seaweed.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, so this is actually the traditional Inca jerky.
So it's a lot more.
It's very different than what you would think jerky would look like.
But this is where it originated from. And the Spanish
correct.
said, whoa, this meat can last without refrigeration for years.
Yes.
And so let's take it. You can see the heavy salt content on there. Wow. How long does it take to make?
2 semanas.
2 months.
2 months.
This is the traditional method of conserving meat for long periods of time for cooking. It's the primary source of animal protein. It has been since ancient times.
Awesome. Cool. Okay. Did everyone else try it here? It's alpaca?
Llama.
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 Mucho mejor que la alpaca.
She's saying it's better than alpaca.
So it's
Mucho mejor que la alpaca.
Saying it's better quality.
it's kind of soft. Here's some more. So it's very soft and very good. I want to say
Very
it's
different.
extremely salty. Clearly, the salt is not for a taste thing. The salt is a preservation thing. It's not gamey. I don't taste any gaminess from the llama. We're asking her how she would cook this right now. So you make stew out of it. So your flavoring is coming from this. Make it with potatoes. It sounds like a lot of it is rehydrating it. You wouldn't just normally eat this. It'd be too salty to eat. But the meat's very, very soft. We're gonna try the difference. Here it is, like limon. So this is the alpaca. It's softer than the llama.
Yeah. It is.
It reminds me of prosciutto.
This is much
This is-
more like
This is a lot more like prosciutto than it is like jerky. Muy bien. Gracias. Adios. All right, guys, we are back in the United States. We weren't able to go to a village because of the riots, so we couldn't find someone actively making Colpa, but we do know how it's made, multiple ways of making it. The first one, in a more modern way, is they'll smoke it, right? People are very familiar with smoking their beef jerky. And they would coat the front and back of the alpaca or whatever meat they were doing with lots of salt, and then hang it in their rafters. And it would take up to 2 months' time. Now, why would they hang it in the rafters? They hang it in the rafter of their kitchen. And then hang it in the rafter of the kitchen, and the smoke would be going up, filling that upper part of their kitchen. And then from there, the smoke would then travel out. Remember from the chicha video, you can kind of see what one of the traditional kitchens would have looked like. Secondary way would have been to use a colpa. We're going to show you how a colpa works. This is the ancient Inca way. They actually preserved almost all of their food. Zero electricity, very easy to do. It's very pertinent to them in the Andes Mountains, but anyone in any mountain range or a windy area can use this. We'll show you right now. All right, so the way a colpa works is, let's say you have a mountain range, right? And then right here, right, they have the terraces where they've built, right? Well, at the top or near the area, they're gonna find an area that has a lot of wind blowing. Why? Because it's in a pass or whatever. There's just some windier place as the other. So what they'll do is they'll often build very tall structures, kind of in the staggered shape. They have a little thatched roof. But on the inside, what's going on is they'll have little tables on the inside, and then they'll have grains or foods, right? Different things are stored like this. Remember, in Inca times, there was no money. Everything was trade. What happens is this wind will come in, and these buildings were designed extremely cleverly. The wind would go in, it would circle around, and then exit out the top. Well, then that was happening on multiple levels and circling out. So you had this drying effect, and it was just from natural wind. Also, these mountain passes can get very cold at night, maybe into the 30s, maybe into the 40s. And you just constantly have this drying effect happening. And right now on the screen, you see a picture of Ollantaytambo's colcas, and those colcas is exactly what you're seeing. Remember, the government's responsibility during Inca times was to store the grain and make sure farmers always had enough grain. Again, a similar thing was done of all kinds of food stores. You can hang and dry meat in here, but most of it, you can make chuños in here from our potato video. All the things you can do with this extremely low-tech system. Think back to our beef jerky video. We've got a box fan, right? It's blowing air through filters, and then we had meat. Meat are inside the filters, and it's doing the same thing this is. We were able to dehydrate it within an hour or two because we had very thin, or 8 hours because we had very thin cuts of meat. But here we are with a working system way just to remove the moisture out of food and preserve things for storage for a very long time. It's super awesome. All right, guys, we're back from Peru, and we had a secret quechua recipe, which is just the salt. So let's go ahead and bust everything out. We've got our marinade here. We marinated for 24 hours. And here's the super secret comparison. We are using the morass salt that you guys just saw from the video. And we're just gonna salt this meat, and we'll dry it like we did the others. Just gonna salt the front of it, salt the back. I'm gonna use way more salt than this, so you don't have to worry. We're just gonna set this in the fridge along with the other stuff. I've decided to throw everybody a curveball here. I know it's not the traditional Peruvian way, but just on these here on the ends, I'm gonna add some pepper to them, just for some extra flavor. But the rest, the other 4 here, I'm just gonna leave those. And I took those fat pieces, and I'm just gonna go ahead and include those. So these will be peppered, these will be just salted, and we're gonna give them the same treatment that we give the rest of them. 1 in the dehydrator, and 1 up in the box fans. All right, and they've just been seasoned. So I'm gonna put the salty ones down first. Give these the same 24 hours that we give everything else. I'm gonna set this guy right next to here. Here is our secret one that we did, which we just covered in salt, and actually we add some pepper to it. And we're going to go ahead and split these up. Here's how we're going to split them up. First one is, there's the world famous recipe, and that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to split it up in two. Half of it is going to go on the baking sheet, and it's going to go into just a standard food dehydrator. And the other half, we're going to go ahead and use Alton Brown's method, which is similar to one of the ancient ways that the Quechua did it. So remember, the Quechua would sometimes, remember from the potato video, check that out if you haven't seen it there, they would store their potatoes in a colpa and air would blow around them for 2 or so months, and that air would slowly dry everything out. Now, I know there are some other ways where after it was salted, it was hung in the rafters of the kitchens and smokehouses, and the smoke over time would dry over the course of about 2 months. So we're going to simulate that with just blowing air over it. Remember, this is sliced a lot thinner, and you're going to see that as we get to it, as opposed to from the market right here on the screen, you see that those are full sides of alpaca and llama or sheep that they were hanging out once. It makes sense if you're doing it for bulk. We're doing it in our kitchen, so we have more surface area, which means we can drastically shorten the time. And so we're going to be doing the Alton Brown method. And again, very interesting. We're going to compare that here in a second. You should use your manufacturer's specs. My specs say basically 165. USDA says I think 140, but 165. And most YouTubers are going to say, hey, do it at 165 or as high of a temperature as it will go, and turn the air blower on for 8 to 10 hours. Well, remember, that temperature, even though it's lower, it's slightly cooking it, as opposed to this one here is not going to cook it at all. Well, how can that be safe if we're not going to cook it? Remember, in this, there is acid and a salt-based solution, and that's going to be what protects it. So our next step is to get this out, get them patted down dry, and put them in. So we're going to get to that right now, okay? So first we're going to deal with these guys here. You can see some of the liquid that's on there. Not sure you can see that. It's a little wet. We're going to pat all that dry, and I'm actually going to super salt it here, because if you remember from the marketplace, everything was very, very salted. So we're going to do that with the ones that are not pepper coated. All right, so it looks like these three here are pepper based, and these are not. All right, I'm just drying all that off. All right, and we're going to see that we've got 3 of them pepper based ones. I'm not going to touch these because they should be delicious, but 3 is an odd number, so I'm going to go ahead and cut these in 2 so we can get half and half. Use some kitchen scissors here. All right, and now, so half of these are going to go onto our drying rack there, and the other half that's been patted dry, we're just going to put into these box fans. Now, box fans, we're going to be cooking or using this to finish meat. How does that work? Well, now that this is patted dry, we're going to fill this up. Then the second one is going to stack right on top. Make sure when you get one of these filters that it's not fiberglass based. Make sure it's paper based. So I got the one with the cleats. Doesn't need to be anything special. I got some cheaper ones. I think these were $5 a piece. All right, so we're gonna keep on going now. The last bit, guys, you guys remember, we're gonna put a lot of salt on these because you remember how salty all of the meats were there at the market. So we're just gonna coat and cover this entire thing with salt and see what kind of impact and difference it has. All right, and very, very covered in salt. Again, there are 4 pieces here, so we could split them evenly. These are our 2 rando meat pieces. So I'm gonna put these thicker ones probably here. All right, so we're gonna cut these 2. And we're going to do a similar thing. We're going to take these very salty ones. We're just going to put 2 on the drying rack. And we're going to put 2 in here just to see. And again, we have 2 extra fat pieces and the 2 extra fat pieces here. We're just going to see maybe those turn out poorly. All right. Now that's good. On to the marinade parts. It's really the exciting part. I'm going to dump this salt. This is one of the reasons I like using a silicone pan. It's out of the way for washing it. Remember, we're gonna want to pat all these down dry. We're just gonna split it 50-50. All right, so here, taking meat. Look at that color. Ooh, it smells great too. All right, so we're patting it down dry. As much of the liquid as we can get off of there. Okay. Ooh, yeah, ooh, very good. All right, now some of these, boom, I'm gonna lay there. Other ones, we're gonna go ahead and bam, lay right in the cracks there. So we're gonna keep doing that, and I'm gonna shut up. Okay, and when this is dried up, it's full, we're going to put the next layer on top. All right, take these guys here, throw them down. Kind of even the cover stuff. All right, and goes one. And next sheet here, second one. All right, again, delicious snack. We're doing a head-to-head comparison based on why. Manufacturer specifications say time and temp. Get this guy up as high as it'll go. It said 140. Most YouTube places say 165. All right. And the time is 6 hours. Nope, we're going to want to go a lot higher than that. Go to 12, 14, whatever. We're going to start that. All right. That's started. It's very interesting. Remember, guys, this is directly lies in the face of this model, which is you don't want any heat. Now, we have an extra lid here, right? So we've got two of these. I'm going to show you how this comes together. This extra marinade. It's only a day old. I think I'm going to go ahead and buy more meat and do just more beef jerky offline because this is delicious stuff. But I'm going to show you guys how to get this rolling in the meantime. Like I was saying, you're just going to use this guy to cover it up. Now remember, there are directional arrows on here. And so, I don't know if it'll matter, but I'm probably going to slot it up this way, okay? And then I'm just going to use bungee cord found in the garage. So, and the other thing I'm going to do, I'm going to lay the box fan flat while I get this thing strapped. Now, you can do 2 to 3 layers. If this one was also covered, just slap another one down. No problem there. But, I'm going to do that there. Bungee cord, strap it on, wrap it, stretch it around, sure it's nice and tight. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get a second one on, just for good measure. Go all the way around here. In the front, okay. Now, comes a moment of truth. We'll tip this guy up. Not sure if you can see that there, but the meat is still in there. You can see the horizontal lines there. And then just gonna take this plug it in. Bam. I'm gonna have it blowing on high. Please note that the air is blowing through where it's supposed to in the correct direction. Same thing here, the air is coming this way. And let me just tell you, this smells delicious, guys. So from there, we're gonna just wait and see the comparison. Guys, I'm interrupting this video because I have an announcement. I've got merch coming down the pipe, so by the time you're watching this, maybe it's already here. And I've just created the membership section. You can have some cool emojis or GIFs. Check it out down below. I also have a link to my Patreon below. If you guys want to support me, if you like this kind of stuff, please, best thing you can do, share it with someone. Help me bypass the YouTube algorithm. Some dude behind the little piece of code could just sit there and whoop, videos disappear. But if you share it with someone you think it's value, we bypass all of that. Guys, thank you so much. If just a few of you, I mean, just less than 1% of you supported me at the lowest level, like $3 a month or something, it would help me keep the channel alive. I appreciate it, you guys. Let's get back to the video.
A few moments later.
And here we are, guys. It's been 5 hours, and that is the manufactured recommendations. I know we put 16 hours on here or whatever. We're going to pull these out and check on them. This is still just going away. No problems. There's dinner. Don't mind that. That has nothing to do with the video. and it's still running. There's no drips beneath it, which is nice. This needs to run for 12 hours, 8 to 12 hours. And so I'll check it before we go to sleep, and if not, I'll put it on a timer. But we're gonna check this in the morning. We're gonna check this out. Let's see here. And remember, these are being cooked in here, right? It's actually running and cooking it at 165. And looks like there's some juices here, some fats being rendered. Interesting, interesting. Very nice. But I don't want to leave this overnight just running away because it's cooking it. It's actually cooking it. This is not cooking it. I guess it could dry out, but it's going to change the texture. So I'm going to go ahead and check this for you guys. It's pulling apart, which is nice. I'm going to taste a piece right here. The texture. Try the texture. Very much like store-bought stuff you would find. So it's got that, just a bit of flavor. But the texture's kind of dry. So I'm definitely going to leave these out and just have that little bit. And we're just going to wait for these to be done. Probably going to let these cool. I'll just pack them away somewhere tonight. Let's check these out real quick. Wow, look at that. Fat has just rendered way down. Interesting. Anyway, the 3 peppered ones here. Yeah, these are definitely done. And it looks like the liquid that we're seeing is either fat rendering. Remember, I didn't get a very lean piece. And so, all in all, not bad. All right, guys, it's the next morning. This technically finished at about 4:30 a.m. It's 8 something, and just wasn't going to wake up to check it out. So it's a little over the dry time, but let's check it out. So first thing I'm going to do, there's really not very many drips underneath. Turn this guy off, and we'll find out together how this goes. Moment of truth. Ooh, look at that. Okay, so first thing you're going to do is find one of the thicker pieces and feel it. All right, it feels pretty good. Okay, and let's see, these salty pieces, they also look pretty good. All right, we're gonna do a direct side-by-side comparison. All right, so here's what we got from yesterday. All right, guys, I'm gonna do a direct taste comparison of these for you. And we're just gonna start with the fat module one. So here's the fat. Remember, it's just extra fat that we salted. We'll just dry it here. Or this is from the air filter. Very, very salty. Definitely not something I would just eat. But I might throw it in something to keep it. Seems like it'd be preserved okay though. All right, here's the fat from just incredible salty, guys. But the show must go on. Here's the fat from the dehydrator. Woo! Just way too salty. All right, well, let's keep the trend up. Back to the box fan. This is just the purely salted one here. The purely salted guy. Remember, this is going to be similar to the traditional Quechua jerky or charqui. Remember, in Spanish, all the murdering. It was salty on the outside, very salty. I probably would want to cook with this, just like that lady had taught us to do with the llama and alpaca. But the inside, the texture is it's chewy. It's not like cooked where it's, I don't know, wants to break apart, kind of like dry. And then also, it's very meaty. You can really taste the meat still. It tastes very meaty. All right, we'll try the same thing with this one. Looks pretty solid. This is a dehydrator. Okay, right away. So they're all salty, but right away I noticed the difference, the texture difference. So you crunch through this guy, and it just It reminds me a lot of the commercial jerkies, where it's slightly cooked, because it is. But I don't say it's dry, maybe it's powdery. Yeah, it's a better term for it. All right, let's move on to the pepper one, a little bit better. All right, so we'll start over here, my hand's over here. We've got the pepper and salt jerky. Take a bigger shot there. Really good. Yeah. So a lot of the meat flavors coming through. It's not super salty because I didn't coat the inside and outside of salt. It kind of has a dry, I don't want to say taste, but it's really a mouthfeel. Give us some more. All right. Over here to this guy here. This is the box fan one. Okay. Really good. All the flavors there, but there's that additional texture. I can't describe it. I don't want to say buttery, creamy, but it's like a softer, just a softer flavor. Here. Not the flavor. The meat's more pleasant to eat. The meat still has that meaty flavor, which is nice. Really, really good. Okay. Now the moment you've all been waiting for is the world-winning marinade. I'm going to bust into this now and try it out. All right, so here's a nice thick piece. And when I try to compress it, it does not compress. We'll compare it to this one here. There's just a little bit of give. I'm not sure if you can see that. It's probably just a field difference. We're going to try this out though. Nice big bite. There's the inside there. Definitely is cooked. Doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It just means it is. That marinade is really shining through. It's really winning. There's just a little bit of grittiness at the end from the texture of the meat being just dry, if you will. Okay, very, very good. I'm definitely gonna eat all of these. And then the last one is the box fan in the suggested method by Alton Brown. Night and day difference when you chew and bite into a thick piece. First off, I'm not sure if you can see the color difference. There's a little bit of a red, purple. I'm just gonna squeeze it to make sure there's any moisture. I squeeze it, there's no moisture. It's just dry. Okay. I ain't smart enough to describe how that is. So a thick piece is good. I'm tasting a lot more. It's not cooked, so I taste all of the marinade. I also taste a little bit more of the red pepper than anything else. Maybe I just got a pepper flake. But again, upon biting into the beef jerky, it's just like, I don't want to say soft and buttery, but it reminds me of that. Obviously it's not creamy, right? It's not leaving a mark on anything, but just like the fact that I don't have to work to chew through it, it makes it feel just incredible. I don't know how to describe it. And remember, this box fan method over here is going to be similar to the Colpa method that they would have used during jerky making. All right, last but not least, what are you going to do for storage? So here's just an old plastic container. And I'm just going to loosely cover it, or I'll tightly cover it. I have had one instance in the past where I didn't dry these out enough, or I cut my beef jerky slices too thick, sealed them in a container, and they ended up spoiling and going bad. So I'm going to err on the in plastic container with some airflow to allow moisture to escape, and I don't think they'll go bad. That being said, those went bad after trying to store them for 3 months, and I don't think these are going to make it past the end of this week. So this is really great stuff, guys. If you like this kind of content, you want me to go travel to more places and bring you the history behind some of the food and show you very simple ways and alternate ways to make it, you let me know down in the comments. like, subscribe. Remember, this is, I kind of do this stuff because I find it interesting. If you find it interesting, let me know what your favorite part of the video was and what more things you want to see. Guys, with that, remember to go out there, fix what bugs you, and we'll see you next time.
Bum bum ba da ba bum 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 ba da ba bum 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 ba da ba bum bum ba da